You cannot have a samurai without a katana sword. That would be like there being a teenager without a cell phone. It would be like having a Mexican mom without a chancla to be able to throw at you. It would be like having a Mexican dad without a fat wallet. It would be like having a cholo without Nike Cortezes. It would be like having Bad Bunny without his dumb glasses. It would be like having 2 Chainz without his 2 chains. It would be like Maluma without the baby. Alright guys, well thank you guys for showing up again. So today we're going to look at samurai. Okay, so samurai were the warriors of medieval Japanese society. They were really the glue that held everything together in Japan. So samurai culture was very, very important. And one of the most important aspects of samurai culture in the way they did things was Zen Buddhism. And remember, Zen Buddhism was basically a philosophy, a religion, that basically emphasized self-control, meditation, being able to kind of calm yourself down. And that was hugely important to samurai. See, to be a good samurai, you didn't only have to be strong in your body, but you also had to be strong in your mind. Just like athletes. You can't have dumb athletes. You can't be a professional athlete, play at a high level, without being pretty smart too, or at least being able to control your mind as well as your body. That was hugely important for the samurai. So the samurai's mindset was that of basically believing to himself that he was already dead. Okay? The idea was you go into a battle with the mindset that you're already dead, and that way, if you die, well, it was kind of coming to you. You knew that was the expectation, and if you didn't, well, that's nice too. But again, that's why they showed no fear out on the battlefield, because in their mindset, they were going to die already. That was their mindset. So go out without being scared, and you fight until you die, because one day you probably will die as a samurai. So by controlling that fear of death, they could really be great warriors out in the battlefield. It's just like professional soccer player, let's say Lionel Messi, whom I love to use as an example. He has to have control over his body, but also his mind. If he's out there in a World Cup final, in front of millions of people watching around the world, and he has a penalty kick, he's standing there in front of the goalie, ball on the ground, him ready to shoot, and if he doesn't have control over his mind, if he's not able to calm himself down and not be scared and nervous, things aren't going to go well for him. But most of these top level athletes do have control over their mind. They are able to stay calm under pressure and therefore perform at the highest level. Same thing with samurai. They had to be able to control themselves and not panic. Because if they panicked, very bad things could happen. Things are not going to go well for them out on the battlefield. That is just not good for them. It's just kind of like, imagine you, when you guys are older and you guys are out on a date and you start getting nervous and you start muttering dumb phrases and you're just like, what's going on? Oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I'm so nervous. They're just looking at me and we're staring at each other and I don't know what to say. Yeah, probably it's not going to go well if you start getting nervous, right? You start to panic. So again, samurai had to have control over their minds as well as their body. So besides being able to control their mind, another thing that was important for samurai and samurai culture was Bushido. So Bushido was the code that every samurai had to live by. So for samurai, it was all about loyalty. It was all about being loyal to the person that paid you. It was all about being loyal to the shogun. It was all about honor and respect That was hugely important. Because as you're going to see, if you ever dishonored yourself, things are going to go very bad for you, as you're going to see. So if you say you're going to do something, you do it. You are someone that acts in an honorable way. You respect others, even your enemies. If you're out on the battlefield, for example, and one of your enemies is on the floor, dying, bleeding out, in tremendous pain, you do the respectful thing. You chop off his head so he no longer feels pain. That, again, was the samurai way of life. Yeah, by the way, samurai were kind of obsessed with heads for some reason. So out on the battlefield, they actually had a helper that would collect the heads of all the samurai that their samurai had killed. They would collect the heads. They would put the heads on a string, so from the mouth through the neck area, they would put the heads in this string, and the samurai would walk around with those heads. And the more heads that you were able to get, in other words, the more samurai you were able to kill, the higher level you had in samurai culture. So again, it was all about honor. It was all about respect, loyalty. That was hugely important in Bushido. So another part of Bushido that was important is fighting fair. You had to be an honorable person. Not like cholitos that run around and do drive-bys, or that gang up on people, that jump people. Hey, yeah, come on, little ducky. Come on, dreamer. Let's go jump this fool, right? And you have like 10 guys versus like one guy or something, right? That is not a fair fight. That would be extremely dishonorable in samurai culture. In samurai culture, it was all about fighting fair. One-on-one, face-to-face. You never stab from the back. You never do a surprise attack. You always face your opponent face-to-face, one-on-one. That is how they fought. That was the samurai way. So you literally had hundreds of samurai running towards each other. They would kind of stop, pick out a samurai that was about the same level of strength or position as them, and then they would fight a fair fight, one-on-one. Even if you saw your best friend getting stabbed to death by another samurai, and you saw he was about to die, you saw he was about to lose this fight, you could not step in and help them. That would be seen as extremely dishonorable. So again, it's all about honor. For them, they'd rather die with honor than to die without honor. That is how important honor was to them. Because if you lost your honor, things are not only going to go bad for you, as you're going to see right now, but even for your family. You dishonor yourself, that means you dishonor your whole family. No one's going to give them jobs. That's it for you and your family if you lost your honor. So to be a samurai, you had to keep your honor. So it would be more like a boxer rather than cholos, right? Cholos go around, like I said, jumping people, not fighting fair. Boxers do fight fair. They wear gloves. They fight 1 versus 1. You can only do certain types of hits, right? You can't hit in the back of the head, for example. You can't hit below the belt. So there's certain rules and guidelines to fighting. Same thing with samurai. You have to follow that strict code of Bushido. So if you didn't, let's say you did something dishonorable. Let's say, for example, you helped out your friend that was dying. He was getting beat up by another samurai. So you step in and you kill the other samurai. Ooh, that would be very dishonorable. So what you would have to do is you would actually have to perform seppuku. And seppuku, as you're going to see, was not something enjoyable. Seppuku basically was the only way a samurai that had lost their honor to regain some of that honor back. So what you had to do is pretty scary. What you had to do is you actually had to carry a sword at all times, a shorter sword, and it was kind of a reminder to yourself to not lose your honor. Because if you lost your honor, again, you would have to perform seppuku. So seppuku basically was getting your best friend, a good friend at least, a friend that would have your back, or as we're going to see, that would have your head. So what you had to do is you had to grab this short sword that you carried with you at all times, and you basically had to stab yourself in your stomach, in your own stomach, twirl the sword around, flop out your guts from your stomach, which was ridiculously painful. Then you had to extend your hands out like this. Then your best friend would chop off your head, and your head would then fall onto your hands. Now, if they chopped off your head all the way and your head fell off, you would lose that honor you were trying to regain. So that best friend of yours better have had really good skills with their sword. That way, your head would land on your hands, and you would at least regain some of that honor you had lost out on the battlefield. So it was something that kept all these samurai in check. It is the reason why so many samurai followed Bushido and did not fight unfair. Why? Because again, if you did, you would have to perform seppuku. You would have to stab yourself and then get your friend to chop off your head in order for you to regain that honor. So the consequences, again, for not following Bushido were massive, right? So let's look at the weapons and the armor of the samurai. So the samurai's armor was very different than, let's say, a knight, right, from medieval times. Remember, knights had metal and it was very sturdy, but it was not very flexible. So the samurai actually had an armor that was a lot more better adjusted to movement. They were able to move around a lot more. It was made out of silk, and basically they were able to move around a lot more, but yet it was also durable, and it also had a lot of protection to it, right? So it had panels of silk and leather and a little bit of metal too, or a lot of metal actually, but again, only in areas where it wouldn't basically get in the way of them being able to move quickly and fight well, okay? So the most important weapon to the samurai was the katana. This sword is one of the best that has ever been made in world history. It is very flexible and movable, and yet it is also very strong, okay? So it was the most important thing to the samurai. In fact, they even believed that their own souls were literally inside of this sword, and they would worship these katanas in many cases. Okay, so it's what made Japan kind of unique. They worshipped these swords, and it was able to cut without breaking very well, and it was also pretty flexible. So the people that made katanas, they had to make sure that they worked well before they sold them. In fact, it would take sometimes even up to a year for a sword maker to finish a certain katana. Again, it was important because if you show up to the battlefield and your katana doesn't work well, things are not going to go well for you. So what they would do is they would actually line up a bunch of prisoners, usually 4 prisoners at a time, and they would try out the katana on these prisoners to make sure that it worked. And the more bodies it was able to slash through, the better that katana would be. So to the samurai, the katana was the most important thing. You cannot have a samurai without a katana sword. That would be like there being a teenager without a cell phone. It would be like having a Mexican mom without a chancla to be able to throw at you. It would be like having a Mexican dad without a fat wallet. It would be like having a cholo without Nike Cortezes. It would be like having Bad Bunny without his dumb glasses. It would be like having 2 Chainz without his 2 chains. It would be like Maluma without the baby. It just doesn't make sense. The katana was the most important tool for the samurai. Another important thing that the samurai used was their helmets. So their helmets usually had horns or other intimidating things to try to scare the enemy. and that way to kind of intimidate them and scare them, and that way maybe they're a little taken off guard and maybe you had a slight advantage because of that, right? So again, they had very, very cool helmets and gear. So with that, that is the end for now. So I am definitely going to look at Samurai again in another video, but we're going to look at it from the context of their history overall. And then we're actually going to look at Ninja too, which is going to be pretty cool. So for now, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.